to turn on your cameras, we'd love to see you. If you're in a position where you can't, we totally get it. But let's get some wins going. I feel like last week I really tried to build up the wins with you guys and really tried to pull some from you, and it was a little dead. And so I need people to get riled up here. You got to remember, you got to celebrate the little wins. You got to celebrate the process. You got to celebrate taking a moment and looking, where was I versus where I am now, even if it's not where you're trying to go yet. And so I would love to hear how people are winning, whether it's small or large. So if you are feeling brave, I'd love for you to unmute and tell us what's been happening.
Brave, or just excited. While you're thinking about it, I'll give you some time. One of the guys I've been working with, Boston Hardwood Decks, he is really kind of starting up his business. Last year, did about 200,000 in revenue. And we've been doing a lot of work getting the foundation, marketing, Google business, local services, all the stuff you guys know, and is really scaling quickly. He sold $60,000 worth of decks in the past 2 weeks, which is, I don't know the percentage, but you can do the math to find the percentage of how much that is of his entire revenue last year. So really excited for Joshua.
Yes.
We had a big win this week. Last week, we took a lead in the morning off Google Local Services, did the work in the afternoon, and collected the money that night. So that was a lead we never were going to get without this help that Travis has been giving us.
That is huge. I love that.
So that's a big deal. Our office guy took the lead. I went and did the work, and then he collected the money. So the system is working well.
Yes,
Nice.
Brandon,
Love to
that's
see it.
huge. I feel like those are wins on multiple levels. You know, got a lead from Google Local Services, was able to get out there same day, close the deal, got paid, like wins on wins with that one. That's awesome.
Yep, it was awesome.
Yes. Any other wins? See a lot of people driving this morning, so I understand if it's a little bit hard to multitask.
I'll say a win. I got one that we went to a job, a drain call. Drain calls usually start off like $150. But in it's older neighborhood, we ended up cammering the line, and it was, I feel bad for them, but it was good for us that the line was deteriorated under the house, and he's trying to get me to do the cheapest thing. I go, look, I can't. I have to do this. I try. If I tried to do cheaper thing for him, it wouldn't work, and so we got to reroute the whole line. So it was like $12,000 in like 3 days. So that was a good job,
Hey, that is a great job, Bobby. And I'm sure that the client felt that. He felt you're not trying to pull one over on him. You're trying to say, hey, buddy, if I could do the cheaper thing and it would work, I would do it.
I was trying to do it originally, but
yeah,
it's not
I
possible.
can't.
Yeah.
Yep. And now you kind of get to be the hero in that situation where it's like, hey, here's what this is going to do for you in the long run. And so wins all the way around. Wins for him, wins for you. That's awesome.
Yep.
Anybody else have a win they want to share this morning? Going once, going twice. All right. If you think of a win later, put it in the chat. Try to think of one for next week if you can. Come to these meetings knowing Nicole's going to be annoying and Nicole's going to be asking for wins. And so I might as well come to the meeting because she's going to be annoying whether I have a win or not. So let me just come with a win. All right. Well, Bryce, I will let you go ahead and get the show on the road.
Oh yeah, we'll take it from here. Yeah, I'll only add one thing to Nicole's piece about the wins. It's intentional because we're in the nature of working together with all of you guys. Our focus is on what needs to improve, what needs to be fixed. And so it's really valuable to be able to have that positive momentum in one direction before we get into the nitty gritty of how do we make it better, right? So we see that positive outlook really work well. So that's why we do it. It's not just to be uncomfortable or to feel good about what we do. It's actually for you guys to feel really celebrated as well. So, alrighty, I'm gonna get us going here in our work this morning. So, the 5 rocks to get you out of the field. This is a really, really important topic to me. I think it is crucial, legitimately, to every business, recognizing that there's a need for something like what we're going to talk about today is the first step, and it's going to set you up to scale really well and to grow your business without growing your stress at the same time. That's a really big primary goal for me in particular, and I'm sure all of our coaches at Redmond Growth, is that we don't just grow a monster into being a bigger monster, but rather something that works really well, a business that you love owning. So these rocks, I'm going to get into the details here in a second, and I'll tell you what these rocks are. I'm gonna hold the suspense for a minute, but an overarching idea here is getting the growth and the progress that you want in your business is not about doing the most things. And I know everybody knows this already. I'm preaching to the choir here. It's not about doing the most things. It's not about being busy. It's about doing the greatest amount of only the best things. Activity by no means is the same thing as productivity. Activity does not equal productivity. So that's my starting point to jump off into the rest of the stuff here. And I want to get into a little bit of the philosophy, and we'll spend most of our time getting into the meat and potatoes. But bear with me as I kind of build the scene here, because it is important. So first things first, guys, you probably didn't think that at 9 o'clock Central or whatever time zone you're in, you'd get some Confucius wisdom thrown your way. But I really like this quote. He says, "Respect yourself and others will respect you." How I want to transition this a little bit is to say to honor yourself and others will honor you. And then one more transition to say honor your time and others will also honor your time. That's what this call is about. It's about making time when you have none. We're not creating something out of nothing. We're just reprioritizing and ordering it well. So first thing that I want to say before we jump into it is about scheduling. I know where you guys are at. I know the nature of your business. We work with small business owners, contractors, wearing all the hats in the business. So know that I don't speak these things ignorantly, but rather with the understanding of where you're coming from.
And I'm going to emphasize that a little bit. I know I said it last week too, because we hear it all the time. Nicole, my industry is different. Nicole, you don't understand. I have to do it all. I don't have employees. And I kind of smile when a client's telling me that. And I'm not doing it to be disrespectful, but it's truly because 95% of our clients come to us the exact same place. You know, whether what industry they're in or how many years they've been in business, the majority of our clients come feeling that way, or they're still in that same position, or yeah, it's just them, or maybe they have 1 or 2 employees, or maybe they have none, or maybe they have several employees. But the majority, vast percentage of our clients come to us feeling this way, feeling like there's not enough time, they're doing it all on their own, they're wearing all the hats. That's why they're freaking hiring a business coach. And so we say that to let you know, we know where you're at. You're not alone, and we promise there's light at the end of the tunnel.
It's true. Well said. So here's the truth that you guys all know, but maybe haven't said as clearly as this before. If you don't take your schedule by the horns, somebody else will. Other people are always going to demand or command our time if we don't do it. Right? You felt that, you've lived that. Additionally, I want you guys to see the connection. Small business, which is any business doing less than 25 million in annual revenue. So, yep, probably all of you guys. Your personal life and your small business are so intimately intertwined. That's the relationship between the business and you. You know this, you live this. But what I want to change and adjust just a little bit is that your business is meant to gratify or satisfy your life goals, not to dictate or limit them. And then here's the last point on this slide, then I'm going to jump into more of the details. Businesses are built in discretionary time, but they're maintained by tasks and burning fires. What you deal with most of the day is how you maintain a business, but not really how you build the business. So if we categorize in our mind how we deal with tasks and how we orient our time, then we create this discretionary time, which allows us to build the business. We can win these mental battles quicker. Instead of thinking about, the next sale, the next close, the next paycheck, the next payroll, we can win those mental battles a little bit quicker if we have a designated time for it in our life, in our schedule. So that's kind of setting the scene. Hopefully you're asking this question. Okay, I'm with you, Bryce. How do I start? When do I start? Let's make it happen. I'm with you. Okay. I stole this from Nicole because I think it's just great. It's a very simple, straightforward. We just got to do it. We just got to do it. There's a phrase Travis and I have been talking about a lot recently, and even in personal life, I've been talking about this with people. There's a desire for us as humans, I think, in our human nature, to want a grandiose solution, a very complex solution to very complex problems. But oftentimes it's a really simple solution to a complex problem. And that's okay. A lot of these things you may be feeling, look, I'm busy. Everything's a burning fire. I've got to do it all. Nobody else can. I don't have a scheduling software. I don't keep a calendar. It's all really hard. Reframe, again, our mindset. This is the last time I'm going to, so if you feel like, come on, Bryce, just get over it. Yes, I'm with you. Okay. Instead of looking at reasons why it can't work, we have to focus on why it has to work, because there's no alternative, right? Reframing the mindset here. It has to work. In order to get a different result, we have to do something different. So I want to make it easier for you guys. Everybody still with me so far? Am I just, okay, cool. So simple things are not always easy things, and vice versa. So I want to give you guys a tool here. What you're seeing on the screen is the Eisenhower matrix, but I also want to give you a couple quick things about making it easier. Some of these are dependent on cash flow. Actually, really just the first one is dependent on cash flow. Other than that, it's all the stuff we're going to talk about with the rocks here in a minute. So number one, you can make it easier by having a gatekeeper. Somebody that filters kind of your intake, whether that's calls, messages from the team, stuff like that. You have a project lead or even a office manager, something like that. This isn't always accessible to everybody. It may not be that time in the season for your business. That's okay. That's okay, because there's other alternatives. Another helpful piece of this is having one calendar for everything. One life, one calendar. In order to separate out space for your personal life, the things you want to do, again, satisfying, gratifying your life goals rather than dictating or limiting them, you have to make space for it in your calendar for work. If you schedule your personal activities and put that block there, you can't schedule stuff on top of it, and you'll actually have that time. And then we'll set the rocks in the calendar. I'll talk more about that here in a second. Is it possible to plan for the unpredictable? I think so. And I'll talk about that more. And then here's where I want to jump into the Eisenhower matrix. That's what this thing is called. Practical advice here, default not to assume anything. And meaning if somebody wants something from you, they've got to explicitly clarify or define what they're wanting so that you can deliver. Not only for your own sake, but also a lot of times when people clarify what they need, you realize, and they also seem to realize, they actually could do it themselves. And it's not going to take that long. It takes 15 minutes to explain it versus doing the task themselves. We often take this on ourselves, right? And not delegating actions in our business. And I'll talk about that. But for other people too, we can bounce it back. Hey, actually, you're capable. I want to empower you. You're equipped. So I want to encourage you to delay your default superhero cape, jumping into action response, because we all have it. That is the strength and weakness of a small business owner, is you can do it all. But here's a master stroke. It's a quick, memorize this phrase. Hey, I've got help for you on this, but first, what have you tried already? Or rather, what do you think we should do? It empowers your team to think and potentially come up with a solution. And they may say something that's just stupid. They may say, something that you think is just a terrible idea, and that's okay. You can correct that. Or they might say the exact thing you were going to tell them. And you say, yeah, that's exactly right. Do that. Go execute. So that's kind of the overarching concept here. Now, nitty-gritty details, there's these 4 quadrants I want to talk about, and I'll be brief here. We've got plenty of resources to help you with that more, videos and that go along with the tool and a spreadsheet even. That's what this link is in the slide. So here are the 4 quadrants. It is about asking 2 questions: what is important and what is urgent? What's important and what's urgent? The way I translate that is importance means you, the business owner, need to be the one to take care of it. That's what's important or not. And urgent is, do we have to do it right now or not? So whenever people come to you with something, they're going to make it the most important and the most urgent thing. You, the business owner, I need you to take care of this, and I need it to happen at this moment, because otherwise we're lost without you. And we want to swoop into that, and we often do. Very few things stay in that quadrant. Number 1 here is we want to reduce these things, because everything wants to be there. So maybe it is something that you have to do, but it doesn't have to happen this moment. It can still happen later today or 30 minutes from now, potentially, and the result is still accessible to you. So schedule a time for that. That's quadrant 2. We want to put almost everything into this quadrant 2 right here. Stuff that is important, but not necessarily urgent, because urgency happens when we put stuff off and say, this is future me's problem, or I just don't have time for this right now. That's okay. You can still say that thing, but then make a time for it later. And that's what we're going to talk about on the bulk of this call, is the rocks that I want you to put in your calendar, making space for this stuff. So quadrant 1, reduce it. Quadrant 2, schedule it. Quadrant 3 is delegate. Hey, this does need to happen right now, but I can empower my team member to do this. I can empower someone on my team to do this. So you kind of bounce it back. That's that phrase I said a minute ago. I've got help for you on this, but what have you tried already? What do you think we should do? And try to empower that solution that they give you. And then number 4, just stuff that's irrelevant. No one has a problem with that. No one has a problem with saying, yeah, that's stupid and not worth my time. I'm moving away from it. So I use this personally. It's not just a tool that we say is a good tool, but this is how I consider my time in my personal life and in professional life too. If it needs to be done by me, I can make time for it. I'll just make a time for it here instead of the moment someone's asking me for it, because I got other priorities that come first. Or I can empower someone. Hey, I want you to do this for me. Okay, cool. What kind of do you need? Okay, is that something that you could possibly do? And then I can refine it afterwards. That's just helpful ideas. So I'm going to jump off of this and get into the meat of our meeting, the rocks. What the heck are they, Bryce? I'm glad you're asking. So here are the rocks. I'm going to just throw them on here. But the idea behind this is that everybody has the same 24 hours. There's a demonstration. It's kind of a shoot. I can't remember who first talked about it, but not super relevant. If you're given a couple of large rocks, a couple of medium-sized rocks, and then some sand, and you're asked to fill a jar, if you put the sand in, which most people tend to do, put the sand in, and then you put some small rocks, and then you try to put the big rocks in at the end, you're not going to fit it all. But if you have that same material and you reorder how you're going to put it in, it all fits. If you put the big rocks first, your main priorities, and then the smaller rocks, the important but not necessarily urgent stuff that can be scheduled, and then you fill the rest with sand, which is what you do all day, every day, address those burning fires, it's a completely full, and all that same stuff fits. It's not edged out. So I want to challenge you guys to think about your week right now. And this is, the rocks are coming, I promise. I want to challenge you to think about your week as a whole rather than each day. the Forrest Gump quote, life's like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get. Well, we can make it a little bit clearer than that if we look at it from a whole and we set these rocks in place. So here are 5 rocks, put up a 4. Here are 5 rocks that we think are really important in your business. If you can have a time for this in your business once a week, you're going to be able to manage your business from the top down. This is the beginning of getting yourself out of the field. I was talking about this with Elias with Gray Electric last week. He's like, is this me getting out of the field? Is this what this feels like the start of that? And I said, yeah, man, that's what this is. So number 1 is accounting and finance. Having a time to review accounts payable, accounts receivable, what money's owed, payroll, things like that. Team meetings and updates. Most times when there's chaos in the business, it's a communication issue. So having a time to give a regular feedback loop is going to eliminate all of the random questions you have in between. Sales and estimating. It is easy to want to give time to this. Easy to want to give time to this because we know it's the lifeblood of the business, right? If I get new sales, I stay in business. That's what's important. But it can easily become overdone and have too much of your time. And then recruiting and training, building the future of your business with your team. Are we investing in development? Are we also able to have time to do hiring? And then the process and checklist creation. This is your future business planning. If there's something repeatable in your business that can be scaled, can be made into a checklist, that's what we want to use that time for. Let's make that checklist, test it, try it, use it with someone. And then I'll put in a little bit tongue-in-cheek here. Redmond growth is a 6th, bonus rock because we touch each of these things. Sometimes, depending on the phase of your business, the time that you meet with your coach is the only time that you can really carve out. You really honor the time because you've made an investment financially, but you really honor that time because there's somebody else here to meet with me, to talk about and do these things. And I want to encourage you to have that mindset about some of these other rocks, depending on where you're at in your phase of business, and talk with your coach more about this. But depending on where you're at, pretend like you've got a scheduled meeting with somebody else, even if it's just with yourself, for the accounting and finance review, for the recruiting and training time, these other things. So those are the rocks, but how can we kind of implement this? Well, I want to give a little bit clearer visual. This is a tool. We're going to give this to you in the breakout rooms to be able to do as well. It is not meant to be an end-all be-all schedule and to-do list. All right. It is meant to just hold the rocks. We put these first and everything else fits around them. They all start to filter in. This is what we know you're coming from, is just burning fires all day, every day. And we're saying, hey, if you can schedule out time for these 5 rocks, not only will it save you time, but it's going to help you manage the business from the top down. And you still have time to address all of the burning fires. All the burning fires. So, example of this, somebody gives you a phone call, or somebody on your team reaches out to you because some problem's happening, whatever. It's 10:30, but you're having your sizzle meeting. Hey, I've got a solution for you. What have you tried? Okay, great. Go and execute that. Or if that's not the question for that time, it says, hey, that is really important. I know that needs to be something that I do. If I get back to you in 15 minutes once I'm done with this sizzle meeting, is that okay? Sometimes it just takes a little bit of resistance to be able to get that time space back. If you have something else in place first, that's what we're asking for here. So, on this tool, again, which we're going to give you in the group calls, on this tool at the top, it's got a mini description of each of these. There's also a link to a past group call. We have this group call as well, but a mini description of what to use that time for. The main thing that I want everybody to walk away with out of this meeting is to have created at least 2 rocks in your calendar. Put 2 rocks first. And actually, I see Oscar here with ALO Construction. I didn't prep you for this, Oscar, but I'd love for you to talk about kind of the difference is made? Because you've done a really good job of actually implementing this and having your rock schedule.
So yes, I mean, it took me time to really get going with the schedule, because it's really hard to block time away from all the people coming to your office or coming back to you wanting to discuss certain things. You have to really stick to this, and this will like does miracles to your business. Like, it changes everything. It gives you structure. Um, it changes a lot of things. So I suggest it for everyone.
Heck yeah.
Yes. And Jordan just asked a really good question. If you do not have access to that spreadsheet, if you need access, just email your coach and we will create a copy of it for you and get it over to you. But it's a very helpful tool to really be able to, as you guys have seen the example Bryce gave, oh, Nicole, it's just my life. It's all burning fires and it's all stuff I have to address. And it's like, okay, well, what if we just scheduled out, an hour here, 30 minutes here? I promise you, unless somebody's off a route, needs to be taken to the emergency room, whether you address that right now or you address it in 30 minutes, most burning fires, there's not going to be a difference in between that 30 minutes and now. And doing these meetings, having a daily huddle first thing in the morning, that's going to help prevent those burning fires as well. And so it all works together. And I know Bryce put that Nike, just do it. I promise you, there's not a good time to do this. It's always going to feel like now's not the right time. There's never going to be a perfect time. It's just a matter of I'm going to get stubborn and I'm going to freaking do it. And it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to be me telling people 1,000 times I will get to that during my scheduled time. It's going to be getting stubborn with it, but I promise you, your business is going to be pretty capped on how much it can grow until you've mastered this.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. There's a tricky thing. You may be saying, hey, it's not hard for me to say no to things. So don't tune us out in saying that, because saying yes to one thing means saying no to 1,000 other things that you could be doing. So you may not have a problem with saying no necessarily to things that aren't important, but when you say yes to other things and you take that priority immediately, then you're saying no to many more things. But Oscar, I love thank you for being willing to speak. I know I didn't tell you to be prepared to say that, but yeah, it is hard. It is not easy to implement this stuff. You have to carve out this time in your life and your business to begin with, but eventually, 100%, I believe this, and I've seen it begin to be true with people that have done this for long enough. At first, you're carving this time out, and it's really, really difficult to make the space for this stuff. But after a year and 2 years of consistently implementing it, it becomes your primary investment in the business. This burning fires time has turned into free time. You actually have a discretionary, not discretionary, discretionary time. It becomes free time after a while, because a lot of this chaos gets reduced in your business and in your personal life. Nicole made a good point that I want to emphasize a little bit further as we jump back in here, which is that when you communicate with your team, hey, I can help you with that, but let me do this in my scheduled time for it. It eventually trains your team to look towards that time. You're retraining people to say, hey, every time I call Bobby at 8 o'clock on Monday, he always tells me to call him back in 15 minutes. So I'm going to stop calling him because I'm not going to get the answer that I want at that time. I'm going to wait until 15 minutes from now because I get the same answer every time. You have to be firm with yourself. You have to honor your schedule first before anybody else will. It's kind of like the know your value stuff, right? Till you know your value, no one else will. It has to start with you. So that's why I had all that mindset stuff at the beginning. I know it can sometimes, Redmond Growth, we don't typically get into the feeling side of things, the woo-woo-y. So the first part of the presentation may have felt a little out of place, but it's so relevant to this. You have to honor yourself.
And one thing I want to emphasize that Bryce said earlier is saying yes to something means saying no to another thing. And a lot of times when you're in a state of growth, when you have goals, when you're a business owner, I think we get in our mind, oh yeah, it's saying no to going out and having a beer with my friends after work, or it's saying no to, these things that don't really matter, these extracurricular activities. And that's not true. Sometimes getting focused and getting diligent with our schedule and really obsessing and solving something and implementing something means saying no to things that might actually be good opportunities. They're just not what we're focusing on right now. It's those people who can kind of get into that squirrel mindset where it's like, oh, I need to do this. I need to do this. I want to work on this. I want to implement this. And then it causes them to not implement anything or to not move forward with anything or to move really slow. And so when you're getting diligent with your schedule, you really do need to determine what is my main goal right now? What am I obsessing over? What's the main thing I'm trying to solve? Let me schedule that. And there might be other things I'm going to want to schedule in the future. There might be other things I want to work on in the future, but they're not, even though they're good opportunities, they're good things, they're not in line with what I'm trying to solve right now. Until I solve this thing, until I get good at this thing, I'm not going to let those other good things distract me. I'm going to put them on the side. I'm going to get to them later, but I'm going to obsess. I'm going to so focus on this one thing. It might be profitability. It might be hiring. It might be getting your prices correct. What do I need? What's my biggest burning fire? What do I need to obsess over right now? Let me implement it, and then I can move on to the next good thing.
Beautiful. What's up, Oscar?
So I have something that I can share that I learned from some people that have been here in the office helping me. And this didn't happen until like I started putting in and giving time to the business. So I have it here hanging in my office, and it's something that's really, I don't know if it's visible.
Yeah, we can see it.
So it says, "What is your time worth? Like how much is your business doing a year?" And you can divide that with the hours you're working, with the amount of weeks. That turns into, for me, was 3,200 hours. With that divided by the amount of the 2 million, it's almost $625 an hour for myself. So if you don't look at things, if you don't look at things, knowing your worth, you're giving away your time, and it's the time that you're not growing. So if you don't know this, it's hard for you to hire people. It's hard for you to see the vision where you're taking your business. So I wanted to share that. And the bottom is the 3Ds. You gotta put this into play: is do it, delegate it, or ditch it.
Nice.
So I think that's something that could help everyone here.
Yeah, Oscar, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. Yeah, it's what your
I
time
would love
is
to
worth.
see some people writing down that do it, delegate it, or ditch it.
Ditch it.
I like it. The 3Ds. I love it.
Yeah. So here's the last thing, and then I'll jump into some breakout rooms here for us. I said this in the last time that we talked about this concept, and I guess actually a couple things. I lied. It's not the last thing. Here's a couple things. Intentionally, this schedule is only between 7 to 6, and ideally it'd be even tighter than that. These rocks want to happen during business hours. I want them to happen for you during business hours. You do too. Again, I know it's hard to carve it out. In any phase of your business, you're all small business owners. But a really important thing that we know in psychology is that we can't multitask. Every time we switch between tasks, we are actually changing gears like driving a stick shift car. So when you push in the clutch, you have no actual forward momentum. Every time you change a task, you're having that idle time in your brain and in your activity. So if we spend focused time, this is a really important part about these rocks, is that you can do these rocks outside of the scheduled time, but during that rock time, you only do that thing. Other things cannot get scheduled on top of it. Other things cannot get scheduled on top of it. I see Joel had a question here. Difficult to carve the time for team huddles. However, as Bryce knows, learning that it helps put out potential fires and loss of time. Sticking to priority, categorizing your time, it enables the team to think more independently rather than wait for you to micromanage each decision. Yeah, that's good, Joel. Yeah, thanks for backing me up there. Okay, here's the last thing that I'll say with this as well. The spreadsheet is a tool we're going to give you and use in the breakout rooms, and I really want it to be something that you take and put at least 2 of the rocks in the calendar. This isn't meant to include everything, and it's actually not meant to be the endpoint. So the spreadsheet here is really not the goal. The goal is that you put this rock, say you're putting in your accounting and finance time at 2 o'clock on Mondays. You make it an hour. The goal with this is that you put it on here, and then you put it in your actual calendar, your schedule, so that your office staff and customers and other people in the team don't schedule on top of that. So you have to put, the last step is putting it actually in your calendar. Okay. Here's what I'll top us off with and then go into breakout rooms so that we can decide the time. Again, guys, the thing we started with is still true. We really want grandiose solutions to really complex problems. But oftentimes, and this is one of those times that I'm advocating for, it's really a simple solution. Just deciding to do it and then carving out the time and following through with it. Great quote here. I'm sure you've heard it a bunch of times. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If we want different results, let's do something different. I know it's hard, it's not easy, but it is still simple and effective. Jordan had a last tidbit for us here before we jump into breakout rooms. He says, I've learned it helps tremendously to give team members why you are delegating things and how it's actually helping solve the problems that you have. I do not disagree. It is valuable to do that. You can give your team the why. That's something that Nicole talked about when she talked about the getting buy-in from your team, is telling them the why behind. You can tell them, in my example earlier with Bobby, when I said, hey, call him every time at 8 o'clock and he says 15 minutes from now. You can add that piece of, hey, 15 minutes from now, because right now I'm working on the finances of the business. This is my finances time. That's why I'll call you back in 15 minutes. So guys, the value of this, seeing that this is valuable, believing and feeling that it's valuable, is not the hard part. The hard part is being firm with yourself and with others. To honor your time, have the discipline to follow through with it. So with that, I'm going to let Travis take us over into the breakout rooms, and we'll give some time to actually put this into practice.